Welcome to the Church Street Podcast. My name is Grant. I'm one of the pastors here. I am joined by the producer of our show. He is I just blanked on your actual title, production manager here at the church. Handles our video, manages our sound team, and other duties as assigned, including, the one that is most relevant here might be, he's definitely one of our best secret writers that we have here, Mr. Paul Bielss. Paul, how are you?
Doing well. A little scared about what I'm going to do on Saturday, but it's the first time.
All right, what's going on Saturday?
I'm actually officiating a wedding.
All
and
right.
I have never done anything like that.
Well, it is. I was about to say it's not as hard as it looks, and that's not true at all. It's way harder than it looks.
Let me give you advice from my first wedding.
Wait.
Sorry, I haven't been.
You haven't been introduced yet. What is this voice talking in the room? We are joined by the actual star of today's podcast, Reverend Zach Stiefel, who is also one of the pastors here. He is the contemporary worship guy, just all-around amazing human being, and we're so blessed to have him. All right, Zach, let's kick this off with weddings. Any advice for Paul here as he officiates one?
So, my very first wedding that I was able to do was on July 8th of 2017. I was commissioned and licensed on July 1st of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I go into it, I'm real nervous. It is one of my best friends in the world, and I met with them. I did all the pre-stuff that you're supposed to do, and they said, okay, we want this to be real quick. Like 15 minutes from the moment I walk in the door to the moment we walk out. It's like, okay, real quick. So we're up there, we're going, and I just jump right in. I'm doing my thing, saying what I need to say, and all of a sudden I audibly hear the whole congregation sit down at once. I'm about 12 minutes into my 15 minutes because I forgot to sit them out of my nerves and my quickness of it. So, number one bit of advice, just tell people to sit and the rest will be great.
Well, the thing that I hate is a preacher that is not as polished as you two. The three preachers that we have here, and y'all are great about your notes. I'm going to be reading this thing because I've written it all out, but I'm going to be that guy that reads it from my notes.
I read a lot more than you think. You learn to visually focus. It looks like you're focusing on the congregation, but you're kind of taking in the content. All right, so
anyway,
let me get back to actually. Let me jump to here's my best advice, and I think this is not boring to the listeners. The few who've stuck with us so far is I use a choir folder.
Right.
So it's got a grip on it, and it doesn't open up all the way, so you can hold on to it one-handed. And I have big block print for every single thing. And if I know something like, by the way, stand for the bride, sit after she's coming, that's in my actual notes, typed out every single thing. And I put the name of the bride and groom in all caps, really big. Because it doesn't matter if I've known them both my entire life or whatever, I will forget their names if I get nervous.
And her name is Danae, okay? And it's not spelled that way. And so in all my notes, I have it phonically.
Danae, yeah. Yes, see, that's good advice, too.
Yeah. And you've already done it. So
why are you asking us for advice? You know more than we do.
Tell us how to do the next wedding. We need it.
Thank you. Yes. So we have some, but anyway, we'll be excited to know how that went, past tense, because by the time you're hearing this, it's already happened. And we're sure you're going to do great.
Still scared.
Yeah. It's
that's a good thing.
It is a good thing, because sometimes church life is exciting, it's nerve-wracking, it's all the things all at once, and we're proud of you for accepting this responsibility for your friend Matthew and going for it.
Yeah.
And Danae.
And Danae. Say it just as southern as you can. Danae. We ask, if you've been following on our podcast channel, we asked Dr. Kiva Green some questions the past couple of weeks because Zach wasn't available. But now we've decided we've got to get caught up. And we've got some questions for Zach. And if you haven't met him yet, you really should. If you're, it doesn't matter if you're a regular here or you've never even seen our faces. Pastor Zach is just a great human being, and your life would be better off if you knew him. And you can trust me on that, because mine certainly is. And you can find him on Church Street, and we'd be happy to meet you.
You have a big Sunday coming up this Sunday for one of your kids.
We do, yeah. That might be one of the questions. Is what I'm getting here.
No, what you're getting here is, so okay, dear listener, I'm going to ignore these two. I'm going to talk directly to you. This gentleman to my left, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see Paul over here, is always giving me little secret signals that I'm going over time or I'm getting off track. And he has interrupted me twice now, and I have actual questions.
Who wrote those questions? So that's you.
I will kick him out of the room if I have to. Okay, you got a big Sunday coming up. What's going on?
We are baptizing my little girl, my 7-month-old Sage, this Sunday. It's going to be a really sweet time. Pastor Grant and Pastor Kiva are both coming to help out, and we're gonna have a celebration for sure.
I'm so excited. That's going to be at 11 o'clock on Sunday in the chapel. And you know you're at the chapel when you go to Church Street and you see a building that says Founders Chapel. Yes, it's literally that easy. So come on in. It's going to be a ton of fun. We hope to see you there. Come be a part of this celebration. All right, Pastor Zach. Give me the names of 3 people, living or deceased, that you would invite to a dinner party, and why.
Okay, 3 people to a dinner party. What are we having for dinner?
That's why. I love this guy.
If it's a crawfish boil, it's a different type of person, you know?
Let's just assume a decent sit down.
Okay.
Although you're absolutely right, but yeah.
So steak and potatoes.
Perfect. Love that. The first person that comes to mind, and I think this is because I just pre-ordered a book that's coming out, but is Dallas Willard. Mm-hmm. He passed away in 2013, a great Christian thinker, but he wrote a book on, or at least they compiled a book based on his teachings over the parables of Jesus. It's being released in a couple weeks. I'm real excited about it. So been diving back into my Dallas Willard days.
Love it. Yeah.
Have you read Divine Conspiracy in those books?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love Dallas Willard.
He's a good one.
Yeah.
And so he's somebody who's just been pretty heavy on my mind as of late. And so I would put him on that list. I would love for y'all to jump in with your people as well.
They've already heard some of us, so
so I need 3 more people from both of you.
All right. He asked relatively nicely. So Dallas Willard is Zach's first one, and I think that's excellent. And you're right. Great Christian thinker. Has written incredible books. We'd love to tell you more about Dallas Willard. Paul, do you have somebody different from what you mentioned last time?
The people I mentioned last time, just reiterate, Robin Williams because of his comic prowess, and Margaret because of his connection with my father. It was kind of our thing. And then my mother. Those were the 3 that I chose last time. This time, wow, because those are my 3 usual.
But I've got one ready if you need a second.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So mine last time, that was Paget Powell, who's an author. He wrote The Interrogative Mood, and a few other books that have meant a lot to me. He's not maybe broadly known, but I think he should be. Just a fan, and he's still living. And the other was my grandfather on my mother's side. Both my grandfathers have passed away. Both were incredible people, but I just thought he was on my list. And then Dr. Jim Pledger, the pastor who was my mentor and friend who passed away a few years ago. That's the 3 that I'd picked. And I think my number 1 this week, just because he's been on my mind, is a family friend. We called him Papa Sidney. Okay. He passed away a few years ago. He was a therapist and just a kind, funny person. Sadly, the last several years of his life, due to some health issues, he didn't have all of his cognitive function and all of his personality all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But when he did, of course, he was always pleasant to be around. It's just that God-given, graceful soul was always there all the way to the end. An amazing human being to be around, even when he couldn't even get out of bed,
Mm-hmm.
couldn't finish a real sentence, was just a joy to be around. But there were a couple of special moments I got to share with him where it just felt like God gave him a moment to be his full self when I really needed the help.
Mm-hmm.
And it was powerful and amazing. I just would love to have dinner with the full Papa Sidney one more time. Now your turn.
I would have to say my grandmother on my mother's side, Mama Lee. And Patrick, my son, is Patrick Lee. I'm Paul Lee. My mom was Patsy Lee. So Lee was a family name, and it goes back 6 generations. Lee, either girl or a boy. But Mama Lee was very special to me. And in college, I know that you don't do this much anymore with snail mail, but you used to have a box at college, a P.O. box. And that's how you got your mail if you lived in one of the dorms and everything like that, especially in North Texas. And every week, she sent me $1. Didn't get me much. Got me 4 games of arcade, of asteroids or something like that. It wasn't it wasn't the money, but she sent me $1 every week, and that meant the world to me.
Yeah.
And she had a stroke, and I know that Dr. Kiva Green was talking about her grandmother saying, I can't remember the words she had. It was something I can't remember, but it was one word. And what I've learned is that when they have a stroke, that they think that they're talking, but they say that one word. And my grandmother's one word was T. So everything was T, 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 T. And basically we figured out what she was talking about a lot of the time, but not all the time. But then she passed very early, at about 64, 65. And then somebody that I quote all the time, basically I did it just a few minutes ago, and that's Dr. Eric McKinney. He was my first senior pastor at this church. Randy Wild was my first senior pastor. But basically, Dr. McKinney, he taught me so much. And I use his knowledge all the time. And I've had the opportunity to thank him. And then my third one, this one's a real weird one.
He's going to knock them all out. I like it. Go for it.
A guy named Rodney Washka. Rodney Washka was my hall director at Bruce Hall at North Texas. And he taught me to have 2 minutes a day. I need 2 minutes from you today. It's kind of like, I know that y'all don't know his voice or anything like that, but that was his voice. 2 minutes today. He was a composer. And he was very known on the North Texas campus because he took a chess game and composed a song according to the chess game. And I had the opportunity to find him and talk to him about 5 years ago to thank him. Again, thank the people that have meant so much to you. Don't wait until they're past. Do it now. And I had that opportunity about 5 years ago, and it was awesome.
That's cool.
Love it. All right, Zach.
My next one is, so all 3 of mine are people that I've actually never met. The next one I'm going to say is somebody who I say shaped the trajectory of my life in a lot of ways. So when I graduated from Oklahoma State, I came back and I was a youth pastor at White's Chapel. And while I was there, I kind of started to feel this itch, this bug that maybe I wanted to do almost primarily pastoral care. And so in the youth ministry, and one day a 15-year-old is riding his bike home from Boy Scouts and gets hit by a car. And that week I called who is now my greatest mentor, a man named Stephen Bell, who was the pastor on call that week. I said, hey, I just want you to let me follow you. Just let me help you. I want to figure this stuff out. And so Stephen said, okay. And he took me along with him on every step of this journey, from every hospital visit to being there when they unfortunately had to take him off life support to participating in the funeral. And so the person that I would love to have to dinner is this kid. His name was Cole Malone, because after what happened to him, I learned the type of pastor that I want to be. And that led me to Corsicana to spend 3 years working as Dr. Stephen Bell's associate pastor, and was just shaped and grew because of that one thing. And so I would love to have him to a dinner to, one, just meet him and honestly be able to say, like, you have shaped me in a way that you never would have known that you could.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, you've already done yours.
I've already done my 3, so.
Puts me at a little bit of a disadvantage when you rush through it like that.
It's a power move.
It was a power move, wasn't it? Yeah. Almost like he's a little fed up with me or something and trying to muscle me a little bit over here. William Faulkner is my second one. Love his writing, love his story, and that's again, it's really hard to explain why, but someone whose work has had such a huge impact on my life. Plus, you kind of hinted at this before we started. You want to get the right mix, and I just think Papa Sidney, which, by the way, he had his doctorate degree. William Faulkner. Already, I'm building something very, very intellectual and Southern fried at the same time over here.
That's an ideal combo,
right?
Honestly.
It's
Yeah.
a good pairing with what I had last time. So
I like that. That's a good 2-meat plate right there.
yeah, that's awesome. All right, what's your last one?
Third one is my dad's dad. So he passed away when my dad was in his 20s. And Grant, you know this, that my dad is awesome.
He is awesome. That is correct.
I look up to him very, very highly. And
He's the one that was here the first Sunday that we welcomed you, right? Okay.
yeah, he and my mom, they still live right down the road, so they'll be here quite a bit. He's the one with a great head of hair. And I look a whole lot like him, just 30 years younger. But his dad passed away when he was in his 20s. He grew up with cerebral palsy and had to overcome a whole lot throughout his life. And even just in the past, we'll call it 5 years, I'm hearing more and more stories from my dad about his dad and the lessons that he learned and all of these kind of things. So I would love to meet that person who shaped the person that I look up to so much.
You need to get a camera, and you need to get a video camera. And
Can I have one of these?
we can let you borrow
Yes,
one.
actually.
But basically, get some of those stories for your kids,
Yeah.
so that they can hear those stories. Because that's one of my biggest regrets, is that my dad, I can pass those stories on to my children, but they didn't get to hear some of them. They got to
Yeah.
hear some of the stories that my dad told before he passed, but not all of them, and I wish I had them on a recording.
Yeah. That's cool.
A challenge I placed on myself for this is to have at least one living person. And so I choose, and this is, I don't know if it's that interesting to anyone else, but he is to me, my Uncle Jackie, who is my mom's oldest brother. I don't even know how to begin to describe this guy. He's eccentric. If he was poor, he'd be weird, but he's eccentric. He's highly intelligent, very artistic. He carves wood, does incredible things. He had his life story, if I could summarize it very briefly, is he served in Vietnam, where he lost both of his legs, had a long, and obviously nearly died, and was left for dead for a while before even realizing, well, he's not going to die, we need to work on him. And he then, in recovery, he made a career out of helping fitting prosthetics. And, started small, and then it moved up in management, and just took this awful thing and made it into a way to not only bless his family, make money, but to help others. He's funny, he just has like a lot of poignant things that he shares through the wisdom of his life, but he's also hilarious great storyteller. I always wanted, Papa Sidney and Uncle Jackie to be together at their peak, that kind of thing. And so this type of magical setting, I would love for both to finally be able to be in that space, and for us to hang out with William Faulkner. That would be insane. I would just be the fly on the wall in that setting. Those three would have a lot to talk about. I would just be the one lucky to be there, which is always actually true in any setting, but even more so with one like that.
You reminded me of something. I was a young audio tech, and I was having to run sound for this convention. And a gentleman, y'all are way too young to remember this gentleman, but his name was Rocky Blyer. Rocky Blyer basically almost couldn't walk because of Vietnam. Couldn't almost had both of his legs totally destroyed, but came back and was a running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Had 3 Super Bowl rings with them. And one of the things as a sound technician you're not supposed to do is wait in the autograph line. I was too young and too stupid. I waited in the autograph line, and I got to meet this Rocky Blyer and hold his 3 Super Bowl rings, but also he told the stories about not being able to perform. And then they say, you'll never make it back into football. And then he has 3 Super Bowl rings to have it.
Wow.
That's cool.
What song are they playing at your funeral to sum up your life? Friends in Low Places?
That's exactly what I was going to say. That is exactly what I was going to say. Because Garth Brooks is an Oklahoma State Cowboy. There's a house in Stillwater.
Were you really going to say that?
100% was. 100% was. Because Garth Brooks is an Oklahoma State Cowboy. And I love that. We sing it at every football game.
Yeah.
I love doing that. And my friends are sometimes in low places. And so they would need to hear that song. My other option would be The Cowboy Rides Away by George Strait.
Oh, excellent. I actually like both. You were coming up here for part of the interview process, and I think it was our youth director, James. We saw you parked in your truck, and James says, wonder what he listens to get pumped up before something like this. And I said, definitely Garth Brooks.
Yeah. It's my go-to karaoke song. It's
no kidding.
Yeah.
I knew this.
Yeah, you absolutely called it.
I love that. All right, well, if money is no object, what car or truck or something would you be driving?
Money's not an option.
Yeah.
Or not an
issue. It's not.
Money's not an option now. But if money wasn't an issue,
money's not an issue. I do not need an F-250, like a black King Ranch F-250,
Yeah.
but I love a good F-250.
Why stop at 250?
Wow, you're right. If
Yeah.
money's not an issue here,
Yeah.
I could easily go with a 350.
You know they make the 450.
Well, I don't want to get greedy, even if money's not an
But
issue
the
here.
450 is only with dualies, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Which could be better. That's
but like okay, so 1-ton F3 big truck.
yeah, and for no reason. I love them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to explain ridiculous to us.
I
We're
appreciate
with
that.
you all the way. So a big truck.
Yeah, I'm a truck guy. I've only ever driven them.
Yeah. There's
I-
something women like about a pickup man. That sounds like a song.
If it's not, it should be.
Yeah. Okay.
I had a Chevy Silverado when I was working in Corsicana, and we lived in downtown Dallas. I would drive back and forth every day for work, of course. And the week that I got ordained, we were having a party at my parents' house that night to celebrate, and so my in-laws were in town, and my father and I woke up to go play golf and got our clubs. We walk out there. I say, Tom, this is where my truck was parked, and it is not here anymore. And he goes, well, we're in an apartment. So he's like, why don't you walk around the garage just to be sure? I'm like, okay. And so I'm chirping the thing and said, nope, this is where I was parked. The truck is gone. So my truck was stolen, and
You've told me that story many times, and every time it hurts.
it does.
Yeah.
Well, have I told you about the emails that I got? So the night before, we're watching the NBA Finals, and I get a couple of emails to my phone, and one says, they're all from OnStar. First one says, there's a problem with your engine and transmission. there's a problem with your anti-lock brake system. There's a problem with your stability. I'm like, well, looking back, that car was being torn apart on the spot. It's like 9 p.m.
Yeah.
And there it went. But so after that truck was stolen, we were dealing with insurance, all that, and I got a rental car, and it was a little Scion. And Cheryl was pretty psyched. She was like, we're going to get a car. We don't need the truck. And I hit my head on the side of it every single time I got in. I'm not a tall guy. I just don't know how to get into cars, apparently. And so I told her,
you're a truck man.
I got to have a
That's
truck.
fine.
That's just how it is, because I don't want to hit my head every time.
Yeah. Well, I like your truck that you have out here, but it's a Ford, right?
It's Ford, yeah. So I drove a Ford in high school, got that Chevy. It was stolen, so obviously I didn't need another Chevy, and went back to a Ford.
I appreciate your logic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And tell us your cool thing about your tailgate.
Well, Paul, this actually failed me this week.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So on my key fob, there's a button where you double tap it and the tailgate just drops.
Yeah.
And I was trying to load our stroller because we went to the park this weekend, and the tailgate got jammed, and so that button does not work anymore.
Oh, sorry.
Unfortunately.
Sorry to bring that up then.
Ouch. Mountains or beach?
10 years ago, I would say mountains. Cheryl and I joke that during our honeymoon, even, I had just graduated from seminary, and all I was really used to reading was like seminary books. And then we've gone to the beach a couple times since then, and so we joke that I've learned how to read since then. And now I love to lay on the beach and read a good book.
Yeah.
And so I used to be all about the mountains, and I still love the mountains, but I think right now that I know how to read, I would love to go to the beach.
We found out that Dr. Green knows how to ski and does ski. With the mountains, do you ski?
I snowboard when I can.
Okay.
I wouldn't say I'm good at it, but I do enjoy doing it. There's something about just sliding down a
Just
mountain
say you're
on your
good
belly.
at it. We're not going to make you prove it.
You want me to prove it?
No.
I don't know how I would, but I'll try.
Okay, that I want to see. Yeah.
That's for the next podcast.
All right.
How about y'all? Mountains, beach?
I'm definitely mountains. Because, if I sit on a beach too long, they push me back into the water and go, beached whale, beached whale.
I'm definitely beach. And I'm not even the kind of person that wants to stay out there all day. I like to get out early in the morning, go take pictures, go nap during the day, or find a big umbrella to get under and read a book. Mm-hmm. I love water. I love the ocean. I like mountains too, though. I'm not like I wouldn't say I have to choose beach over mountain every time. But if you're asking me to choose my preference, it's a nice, quiet beach where I can read, take pictures of the sunrise or sunset, and just be with loved ones. Yeah. All right, what's the last book that you read for fun, since we now know that, according to Cheryl, you actually can read?
I know how to read. Well, I'm good at listening to audiobooks is what I'm learning also. But
still counts.
It counts. I drive now more.
I read. I drive.
Yeah.
We're so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
You can do both.
This is the encouragement that I needed today. I appreciate it.
It's amazing I don't get punched more often.
Well, from what I've seen, Paul's ready. Paul's on it.
For the reading or the punching?
Whichever you prefer. You tell us.
Yeah. We'll let the readers or listeners wonder.
The last book that I read is a book by a pastor in Portland. He's the guy who replaced John Mark Comer at Bridgetown up there. Bridgetown, is that right? Bridge something.
Put me on the spot. I don't remember, but I think you're right.
Yeah, and so his name is Tyler Staton, and he wrote a book called Praying Like Monks, Living Like Fools. And it is really good because it goes through the Lord's Prayer in a really specific way. Mm-hmm. And it has helped shape my prayer life as of right now, which has been great.
Yeah, wow. What's the name of it again?
Praying Like Monks, Living Like Fools.
Okay.
I got a copy of it.
We've got the fool part down.
We have that. I like that because I looked at you and he said, praying like monks, living like fools. And I thought, yeah, we do that.
We got that. We got that.
I think it's a requirement to come on staff here. That's interesting. I want to get a copy from you. What's the last movie that you watched?
And I put a caveat on here that for your enjoyment, not for your family's enjoyment.
Thanks, Paul.
Because I know this Frozen. I mean,
we've watched some Frozen recently. Frozen and Moana were in it, but Cheryl and I went and saw Twisters, which was fun. The main character of that, Glenn Powell, Cheryl actually went to high school with him, and so we try to see everything he's in. But so last movie we saw, yeah, pretty cool.
Did she know him, or
she did?
Okay,
he was her older sister's age. My brother-in-law loves to tell me that Glenn was his backup quarterback in 8th grade.
Nice.
Like, of course he was.
Yeah.
But Twisters was pretty great.
Yes, it was very good.
I enjoyed the first one a lot, and this was a good second one. So, and we got to see Glenn do it.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
And it's about Oklahoma also.
Right. I mean, the Stillwater Rodeo's in it.
That's right.
A tornado tears through it, unfortunately, but at least they didn't show campus or anything.
It's like a documentary.
Yeah. This is my life, y'all. Because I lived there for 4 years.
What's the longest road trip that you've taken? Longest or best?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think one of my favorites was, both of these came when I was in college, and one of them includes driving from Stillwater, Oklahoma to Breckenridge for a ski trip with some friends. I was snowboarding. You need me to show you?
Yes. I do now.
That one was a great one. It had a big group of people, and you drive through the night when you're in college, and we took shifts and took turns, and it was a wonderful time. Another one was at school going to Kansas City and back in the same evening to go see Jack's Mannequin in concert. Do you know Jack's Mannequin?
Yeah.
It was a fun concert. It was a good night. It's not Garth Brooks.
Fun.
It's not George Strait. It's a little bit different.
The drive there and back.
That's what makes it.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about y'all?
So longest road trip that I've taken, and it's probably one of the best. I don't know if I could rank them. I have a lot of great road trip experiences. I'm very blessed to get to go on a lot of road trips with my dad. But the longest one was it was during COVID. I flew to North Carolina to meet up with my friend and his giant dog because he was moving all the way to Alaska. Now, I was going to drive with him all the way to Alaska. We drove across the country. We made several stops. Like we made a real trip out of it. We went to Mount Rushmore, the Badlands, Little Bighorn, which was very interesting because he's in the American military. I have Native American ancestry, so for us to walk that together was powerful and very meaningful. We hiked in Mount Rainier Park and some of the mountain, and we enjoyed that. Get to the Canadian border, and up to that point they were allowing servicemen and women who were going to Alaska to go through with someone to help them move, and I think 48 hours before that they had stopped it to where only people who are serving can go. In fact, we're at the border crossing with a guy and his whole family, and his wife and 2 kids are told no, they can't keep going, and only he can. And he is throwing a huge fit, and it's starting to get attention. And I just turned to my buddy and I'm like, Michael, will you just drive me to Seattle, please, and leave me there? And so we had to change plans. So it ended on a pretty sour note, but he made it fine, and then has since made it back. But that was an epic road trip, and that's pretty far. That's almost, I didn't see the Atlantic Ocean, but I was very close to it.
Yeah.
In North Carolina, and drove all the way to the top west corner of Washington State.
Wow. In
a pickup truck with a giant dog.
Describe giant.
Anatolian Shepherd mixed with something, so he was even bigger than a normal one. He's like 150 pounds. We posted a picture of while I was on the trip. I'm driving, and the dog is like right up here on my. I'm demonstrating on Paul. If you're listening to this and not watching on YouTube, his giant head like right up here. I'll show you the picture later.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the dog has since passed away, and I cried when I got that phone call. I used to watch this dog whenever he was doing military stuff. So basically, the dog sort of lived with me as well, and it was great trip.
I, too, had the opportunity to travel a lot with my parents. My dad was a teacher before me, and so I have been lucky to go to all 48 continuous states. at least through them, if not stopping, but most of them I've stopped through. But the longest one that I remember was about 18 years ago. We were in Washington, D.C. It was my family, Rebecca, Pamela, Patrick. Patrick was about 10 years old, and he was supposed to be in a baseball camp on Monday, and this is on Sunday, and he was going to miss Monday. All of a sudden, he goes, I want to be there tomorrow. Is that a possibility? Well, let's just say that Becky and I made it a possibility, so we got him to that baseball camp.
That's
and
awesome.
so we drove as fast as we could legally, most of the time, and didn't make anything but necessary stops from Washington,
Wow.
D.C.
That's
It's
a haul.
impressive.
That is a haul. And I have to tell my wife hates this story. We're going through Tennessee, and she keeps on looking and going, isn't that the wrong color orange for that tea? For those that don't know, that basically the Tennessee orange is different than the UT orange.
Oh, yeah.
And so she thought that we were in Texas country with the T instead of the Tennessee. And I had to inform her, we're in Knoxville, and that's the Tennessee tea.
All right, Zach. What's the longest plane trip that you've ever taken?
It's got to be going to Israel, I think.
That's a long flight.
Yeah, from DFW to JFK, and then JFK over to Tel Aviv.
Mhm.
It's a long flight, but it's really cool. Have you done this flight?
So I've done DFW to Newark to Tel Aviv, and I've done DFW, I think, straight
Oh, wow.
to, I'm trying to remember the first time I went, but it's long. It just feels long.
It does feel long. But it's really cool if you wake up in the middle of the night and you see the rabbis walking up and down the aisles. Did you see this?
Mhm, yeah.
And they're doing their Hasidic prayers. It was really cool.
Yeah.
And so I ended up waking up and then just watching them for
Yeah.
longer than I needed to. They probably saw me like, what is this kid doing? But that's okay. It was worth it.
It is such an unusual flight because you go through security basically before you take off. You're going through Israeli security rather than when you land. And so that's different.
Yeah.
And then when you land, the airport's a bit of a mess. That's also kind of shocking. You're like, why is this so disorganized? But they do all that security before you even get there. So when you
Don't
get
have to
there,
worry about
they
it.
really don't care
Yeah.
if the line is organized. So mine would have to be a total, like together. That one flight probably is my longest. But when I went to Kenya, you fly to London, 9 hours. You fly to Nairobi from London, 9 more hours. And
Big day.
that's hard. Coming back is even worse because there's a long bus ride before you get to the airport. Extra long time in security. You basically go through the same security twice, and then fly, lay over, and then fly. And that one's you hate everyone and everything by the time you get back home for a few minutes. Yeah.
In 1995, I had the opportunity to go to Moscow, and I've said this before, but it was Frankfurt or DFW to Frankfurt. No, it was DFW to JFK, JFK to Frankfurt, Frankfurt to Moscow, and then we took a train from Moscow to Volgograd.
Which is where you do your mission.
That
Or
was
the next village. if you
That
could.
that's exactly right. And that was with 9 youth and 3 adults. I was the youth director at Lovers Lane United Methodist Church at the time. And
I'm just imagining Frankfurt Airport at that time, Moscow train station, all these different things that.
Well, coming back was the interesting part. I had the opportunity. I had one of those 3 adults was my assistant, my youth director or youth assistant, and I'm the last one in the line. And I've gotten everybody else checked in. Everybody's good, and they come up to me and they say, "I'm sorry, sir. We're going to have to bump you up." That's not what I heard. I heard bump me. And so I'm said, "You can't do that." And finally my assistant comes up and goes, "Paul, be quiet. Well, listen to what they're saying." And so I'm getting to go from Frankfurt, Germany, all the way. We didn't have a connecting. We went right into DFW in first class.
Wow.
The first and only time I've been in first class. And I had all these people from North Dallas, very wealthy people. I won't mention any names, but several that you would know. Basically say, hey, don't you want to switch? I'm used to sitting up here. And I go, I'm not used to sitting up here, and I get to.
Yeah.
Another
Right.
power move to be on a trip with your youth group. I'm going to sit in first class.
Yeah.
I didn't do it on purpose.
No,
I didn't
it's-
understand
hey,
it at first.
I don't blame you.
So we know that Dr. Kiva Green has done 19 marathons. Not kidding. 19.
It's a lot of marathons.
And that's her hobby. What's your number one hobby? Or interest or
I love
activity?
to play golf. And
Yeah.
I'm not very good at it. But I
What's
like
your handicap?
Are you better at golf than snowboarding?
Ooh. Hopefully, based on my snowboarding abilities. I think so.
I was kind of hoping he would say something like, no, dude, I shred.
Yeah. You want to see? But I like to play as often as I can. I've gotten to go on some pretty cool trips playing golf. I think the best one was a couple of years ago. I went to this golf resort in Oregon. It's called Bandon Dunes. And they have 5 courses and no golf carts. And so for 4 days straight, we played two rounds a day, and you just walk, and it's in the middle of Oregon, and so, or it's right along the Pacific Ocean, rather.
Oh, cool.
It's beautiful. And so it's like, I would wear my watch and have like 40,000 steps at the end of every day.
Yeah.
Feet were killing us. Golf was terrible, but it was the best trip.
Totally worth it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
It's awesome.
So I love to play golf. Love to watch college football as well.
Right?
But your team is not doing well this year.
Well, this is just par for the course here, Paul. When you've been an Oklahoma State fan for a while, you're used to this.
What do you call them? You call them, what is your nickname
Oh,
for them?
when we're doing bad, we call it the poke choke. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, so just imagine, okay, it's a cold winter's night. You got nothing planned, no events going on here at church. You don't have anywhere you have to be. What are you looking forward to doing?
It's a cold winter's night. I told Paul this week. This is a big week in the Stiefel household because my favorite food in the world is chili. And I love it so much that Cheryl has to set parameters on it. So our chili season opens October 1st.
That was the next question. I had actually written that down as a question for you.
October
not expect
1st
that.
through March 1st. That is chili season.
That's
in
it.
the Stiefel house.
Okay.
So I have
And
chili
you
in the
have to have a
fridge here.
permit.
That's
I
right.
assume, and you got chili tags.
Absolutely.
And you can't exceed the limit.
I've got chili in the fridge right here.
No
I
kidding.
can verify this. He has shown it to me today. So
Yes.
yes.
So, tell me, I have many follow-up questions. Do you cook the chili? Are you like a competitive chili cooker? Have you been to Terlingua and done the whole thing?
I am capable of cooking chili. Cheryl is a much better cook than I am.
Okay.
So she is gracious and loving and will make chili for me. Specifically, this year we had something on October 1st. We had National Night Out. So chili season really opened October 2nd this
Okay.
year.
Yeah.
But it was 95 degrees outside, and we were just enjoying some chili. And Paul asked me, are we a beans family?
Yep.
Cheryl doesn't love the texture of beans, so we blend them for the health benefit of it and put
Okay.
it in anyways.
Blend the beans.
I've never heard of that in Chile, but that's something new.
Interesting.
Yes.
I'm gonna try that because
It's-
I'm not from here, so I don't mind saying I put beans in chili. But okay,
Gets that way you get the
yeah.
Now, my follow-up question that I haven't got to ask on this chili season, is it once a week? Is it once a day? Is it what is it?
if it were up to me, yes. I would say we're probably good once every 3 weeks to have chili. Maybe a little bit less frequently than that if we get sick of it, but I don't get sick of it. So if we could do every 3 weeks,
I make chili. My chili is not bad. I should do that up here.
prove it.
Well, that's what
That's just the name of the podcast,
Yeah.
right? Prove it. You want to see?
Becky and I, if you've been listening for a while, you know that we've been remodeling our kitchen, and we found basically I guess you would call it a trophy in our cabinets of that some part that we were part of won the chili cook-off here at this church. So we have a history of this. So maybe what I'm hearing is that we need to bring this back.
Maybe.
I would be interested in being a judge for sure.
Oh, not being a participant.
I would participate.
I'll participate. Yeah, I'll throw down.
So I and basically we could have individual competitions. We could have classic competitions. We could have even organizations like the choir and things like that. So
I have some family who's in Baton Rouge. This is Cheryl's family.
Do you call that all the time?
What's that? I'm always calling Baton Rouge, Paul. Back to Garth Brooks if we can. But their Catholic church up in Baton Rouge does a annual barbecue cook-off.
Ooh.
And they call it Holy Smokes, of course. If you're a church, that's what you call a barbecue cook-off. But
I like that.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And the prize for the winners of all these different categories, there's chicken, ribs, briskets. They do like a chopped type thing where there's a mystery item that you have to implement. But they have personalized cutting boards that have the Holy Smokes on them as the trophies. So if we were to do a chili cook-off, even barbecue, get some cutting boards made for the trophy would be pretty cool.
I like that.
I know, I'm thinking of some people that can do that. Because not myself by no means, but there are a couple of that can do the inlay and everything like that.
Oh, yeah.
That, so
No, we can get that done.
Yeah.
We've got a few more minutes, right?
Yes.
Okay. Should we ask the ingredient question?
Sure.
We'll have to explain this a little bit.
Are we
And
still
maybe you can
talking
help me
about
out.
chili?
No, talking about you.
Okay.
Although, well, I mean, maybe. Chili is your secret ingredient. No, help me out here a little bit. So this was a question we came up with kind of partly just kind of what we're talking about right before. Kind of what do you appreciate about someone or so it's more like talking about someone else, but sometimes it helps to know yourself and to be able to appreciate the gifts God has given you. So what is your secret ingredient to your success? Your spiritual gift, intellectual skill, personality trait, the thing that God has put in your life that has helped you get to where you are? Because you have had a lot of success for a young man, and done a lot in a short period of time. What is the secret sauce? Do we need to ponder that? And
I do. I've got a couple of things that come to mind.
Okay, go for it.
You hear me talk about John McKellar all the time, and
Just for their benefit.
Yes,
who is
John
that?
McKellar is the senior pastor over at White's Chapel Methodist Church. He was my pastor growing up. I started going there.
He
and
talks like this. Hey, Zach, how you doing, brother? You doing okay?
He's a
over there,
Louisiana
Grapevine?
guy.
Yeah.
But I think John McKellar 101 is, he says, everybody, specifically on a church staff, needs to have an MBA. They need to have a mop and bucket attitude. That there is no job too big or too small for anybody.
I've cleaned gutters in a lightning storm.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Love that.
True story.
I hear a lot about floods and fires in this place.
Nope. And I will not be proving it.
Yeah. You want to see?
No. But yeah, here you're right. That's and you have that attitude.
Well, thank you.
Like, keep going. You keep going.
Have you ever taken the StrengthsFinder test?
Yeah, we didn't find any.
Yeah.
Boom.
All right. So what are yours?
My number one is positivity.
Oh, for sure.
Every single time I've ever taken it, it's always come out as positivity.
Yeah.
And I think that can come as a benefit and a fault, because I'm naturally the person who tries to make everything positive, which is a really good thing when you need things to be positive. When things are negative, you don't want them to be made positive. And so, or don't always want them to be made positive, if that makes sense.
I'll push back on that and say that I think you do a good job of focusing on how God is using a situation for good. You know, I've again worked with you not for very long, but very closely through some difficult things. And you're not trying to sugarcoat any situation, but you are looking for God to do something good and stay, I hate to say just stay positive, but stay focused on the direction that God is calling you to go, and you don't wallow. You don't wallow at all.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. No, I do not accept you saying that you're too positive all the time. And don't get me wrong, I know, like, sometimes your strength is your biggest weakness, and nobody's perfect. And I only know the chapter of your life that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know all the chapters that came before. But clearly God is working on you to have a holistic positive attitude. And it's had a huge impact on us already.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So that's funny, is I would say your secret ingredient is your positivity, and you have a very tender heart. You genuinely love and care for people, for ministries, for church as a whole. Like whatever church you're in, you really love it.
Yeah.
And you can't fake that. And you can't hide it either. That's just who you are. So yeah, then that's why I was picking on you earlier. I was like, "You're too nice."
Yeah.
You're too nice, and I really didn't mean that at all. Because sometimes being too nice is a place of weakness, and you're not weak at all. You're very strong, and the Lord has given you a lot of strength. But you still have that tender heart and that positive attitude.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Do you agree with me?
Totally agree. Totally agree. I won't give away all his secrets, but some of the things that he does before service are amazing.
Yes. You're right. That's not ours to tell. But just, the way you carry yourself, for sure.
Well, thank you. Yeah, Paul got a sneak peek. I like to be the first person here on a Sunday morning at anywhere I'm serving. And so I get here about 6:30 on a Sunday morning, so I like to turn on the lights. And Paul snuck in on me, got headphones in, kind of rocking out a little bit this week, turning on lights and doing my Sunday morning stuff.
Yeah, I asked Sanders when you got here, and because I saw you. I don't get here quite that early, but not long after that.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my goodness, what's he doing here? Yeah.
Yeah, it helps when I'm being woken up at 5:30 anyways, so I'm just up.
Yeah. No, it's a great way to be.
How about y'all? I'm interested in the secret ingredients.
Paul got mine wrong. Which is, you have to, well, you don't have to have been there or listened to it before, but
And he texts me and goes, I'm mad at you.
I didn't say I'm mad at you. I said I didn't like what you said.
I don't like what you said.
I didn't say I'm mad at you. Just said you disappointed me. No, I didn't say that. I didn't
so, Paul,
say
is
that.
this your time for redemption? What is Grant's secret ingredient?
I did actually. This was a good conversation because I had two people close to me who listened who said they do kind of disagree. Paul said that I'm very good with selecting when to speak up and when to just let things pass by. And I know the situations he's thinking about that were pretty intense. I do not think the only secret ingredient in those moments was the Holy Spirit was with us during those conversations, because the spirit of Grant would have definitely ruined it. But Roper, so I heard different things. Like one person very close to me, knows me very well, said it's radical candor, as in like really direct, transparent, and honest.
I like that.
Another person who listens says it's all the crazy ideas I come up with, all the ministry ideas I'm generating. I think that used to be true, when I played a different role, but I've had to slow some of that down.
I was looking at churches for sale, and I found one in North Richland Hills. $4.5 million is all we need.
I've got my eye on a better one, but that's,
okay.
I don't want to talk about that.
Okay,
just yet, but I'm always. But I think that I was having this conversation with Jeff Roper, who is our
We're not
COO.
leaving this one. We want to have an additional
No,
one.
we want more.
We want more. So
But
just don't have that rumor start. I'm sorry.
Just don't panic about it. All right, whatever. I'm gonna stop now before I get in more trouble. Jeff Roper is our COO, and he said his and mine are basically the same, which makes sense when you watch us together, and that's curiosity. Like, we're just really curious about how things work. How can we come up with a different solution? What's a different approach? And that may be right. But the point of this conversation is to, thank God for the blessings and strengths that you have, and for the ones that are a part of the people around you. And try to tell people, try to share with them, hey, this characteristic, this gift that God has given you positively impacts my life. Like Paul's an incredible teacher, a lifelong educator, Jedi master, and he just is really good at helping you walk through a problem and find a solution, which is one of the reasons we work so well together, because I'm curious and looking for new things to try and different ideas, and Paul's there to help me figure out how to make it work. Those two just seem to work really well together. All right.
Thank you.
And
I don't.
I know we got the wrap it up sign, but can I
You
say
saw that,
for
right?
you-
Thank
I
you.
did,
He's
yeah.
the one that wasted the time. But anyway, go for it.
For you, you are one of those people who it is easy to trust you, I think.
Well, thank you.
Even from some of our very first conversations, I kind of laid it all out for you. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And when you commented on it, when you had the advice that you did, for some reason, without really knowing you, I automatically trusted you. So I think that
Well,
is
thank
a
you.
secret ingredient of yours. You're easy to trust.
Well, thank you. That means a lot, seriously. And those were really holy, special conversations. And part of this podcast is to try to crack open those moments so we get to share them with others, and encourage them to go and do the same. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
You and I just naturally click, like we've been like we were related,
sure.
like we grew up together. Yeah, it was like 10 seconds in. We're
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, this is gonna work. All right, Paul. Or do you have anything to say for Paul?
Paul, you have this jovial countenance that you're very, very likable, I think is a good way to put it. That
He didn't know me when I was an umpire, huh?
Paul, you were the person who, when we were considering even applying and making the move over in this direction, you were the person who was tasked with taking Cheryl and the girls and me on a tour of this place. And I think that was a really smart move by whoever told you to do that. I'm assuming it was you, Grant, who said...
It's a long story. I was involved.
And it's because of who you are. And so I think your warmth and just your general overall nature makes you somebody who's very approachable and likable.
Thank you very much. Even all the bad stories I told you about everything, huh?
Even then.
Well, gentlemen, it's been a ton of fun. And Zach, thank you. Thank you for carving out time. I know it's been a really busy week for you. You've just kind of been everywhere this week, but thank you for being here with us.
Yeah.
To our dear listeners, thank you for the time, for listening in. I've got a quick quote, and then we'll get out of here. This was one that I heard yesterday from a church member named Bob Black, and he was talking about his hobby, his interest, but he gave a line that I think applies to so many projects and things in our lives. Again, talking about this hobby, he goes, hold on, let me make sure I get this completely right. So this is the quote. It's not complicated, but if you put in a little bit of the wrong energy, it will get complicated really quickly. And I actually used that in a meeting I had today of this is not a complicated thing, but if we look at it wrong and we go the wrong way, it could get that way quickly, and I don't want that. So a lot of times in life, we want to overcomplicate things. But just remember, if you stay focused and you don't put the wrong kind of energy or effort or mindset into something, it doesn't have to be complicated and difficult. I lay this before you. Does that sound okay?
Sounds fantastic.
Okay. Bob Black is super cool, though, but that's for another day. We'll have to have him on here and ask him some questions. What do you think about that?
Sounds great.
Until next time, dear listener, we hope you have a great week. See you soon.